we're starting this conversation, and this is not just a one-time conversation. This is an ongoing conversation that will see us take steps, make strides, grow as individuals, because whether we like it or not, the growth we will experience within our organizations is going to come from the growth that we experience personally. And the more we grow as individuals, the more our organizations grow. So today we are going to be talking about sustainability in the nonprofit sector. One thing I want to reiterate is the fact that if we do not have a plan, if we do not have a strategy, if there's no clear direction to where we want to go, there's no way we're going to get there, because guess what? You only know you have arrived when you know where you're going to. So without taking any more time, I'm probably going to speak for 30 minutes, maybe a little more. But the goal is, at the end of the day, we have a wholesome conversation that helps us to see how we need to proceed and how we can grow to become, the kind of force that we want to be in Canada. Now, these are the broad headers under which I'll speak this evening. I've taken the what, who, why, how, and where approach to this conversation. And the goal is to say, hey, at the end of the day, what exactly are we trying to get done here? The fact is this: all progress is planned. Nobody ever drifted to the top of the mountain. The only way we can get the kind of results that we are seeking, the only way we can secure the kind of capacity that we want, the only way we can become the kind of organizations that we point out to at the moment, is by planning and executing. And the first step to executing is showing up. So once again, I want to thank everyone who's here right now, because it means you've taken time out of your busy schedule to show up to have this conversation. So what are we trying to achieve here? What's the essence of this group? The essence of this group is simple. It's very simple. You have an idea, you have a cause, you have a dream, you have a goal, you have something that you want to see that you're not seeing, or you're seeing a way that society is going that you feel it shouldn't be going, or a way society is not going that you think it's the direction it should be pursuing, right? You have that thing. However, you may not know what that thing actually means. You may not understand the ramifications. You may not get the full import of this thing that is you are dealing with, that you're thinking of, that you're brooding on, that you've discussed with one or two or three of your friends, that you've incorporated as an organization or a society or a group. Our goal is simple. We want to help you find that thing. We want to help you give life to that thing. We want to support you in creating this organization or driving this cause that you're desirous of seeing, and seeing that it becomes the thing it was meant to be and much more. I've given examples of potential causes here. I know that Mrs. Olotu, who is here, is very passionate about our young people. She's investing in young people in back home in Nigeria. She's investing in young people here in Canada, spending oodles of her own money, to get this started, and she's gotten to where she is now. I know Anne Kalema and the work they're doing at with entrepreneurship in the Francophone community. Ms. Smith, with her own focus and her own organization at Skill City. There is something that we want to do there. And really, all we want to achieve is support you in driving that cause, because it's your cause. And when you believe in it and you take the action to make it happen, you will see the corresponding response to that action, as long as you stay with it. So that's our goal. That's what this group is all about. Now, the plan is to continue to provide resources, provide you connections to lawyers, accountants, potential funders, actual funders, information about grant applications, preparing for charitable status, whatever it is that would look like. However, we can either come in as an organization, that's Dexteritas, or any of the organizations within the coalition, to support us individually as we take steps from where we are right now to where we want to be. But the point I'm making is this: that thing that you're working on, that thing that you're thinking about, that thing that you're putting effort and energy into, that thing is a lot more than you think it is. And as you sit on it, think on it, visualize it, work on it, because the truth is this: business owners get profits. You drive influence. You seek out a cause, and your reward is seeing that cause come to life. So who has done this before? Who are the people that have built, gone after a cause and seen it become what they desired or much more? I found a group. So I did a search. I did a search for the top 10 not-for-profits in the world. I did a search for the top 10 not-for-profits in Canada, and I did a search for the top 10 not-for-profits in Alberta. And I just chose 2 from each of those groups. And I'll just share a bit about what I found relating to those organizations with you. Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, as they're called, was founded by a group of 13 medical doctors out in France. And those guys were moved by, surprise, surprise, the famine in Biafra at the end of the war. The Biafran civil war in Nigeria was the tipping point event that gave birth to Doctors Without Borders. Rarely is MSF mentioned in the same sentence as Nigeria, apart from when they have missions that are being carried out in mostly the north of Nigeria, either for polio or those kind of things, or anti-malaria vaccinations. But the event, the tipping point event that gave birth to the organization that is currently Doctors Without Borders today, was the famine in Biafra in eastern Nigeria after the Nigerian Civil War. That organization today is a $1.3 billion net asset organization that received $2.2 billion in donations, restricted, endowed, and non-restricted donations in the course of 2022. Greenpeace is another one. This is another global organization. They are based out in the US, and their own trigger was some events by the US government, but their focus is on everything sustainability, deforestation, overfishing, pollution, climate change. Environmental issues is their forte. They want their focus is keeping the environment livable for us as humans. And they are a $360 million net assets organization. They took in $31.7 million in unrestricted, restricted, and endowment donations in the course of 2022. Now, many of us know the Sick Kids Foundation. They are the organization behind the Sick Kids Hospital out in Toronto, Ontario. Their backstory is one that I found very interesting. They are the birth of a Bible study group that was run by, I think, 6 or 8 women back in the late 1800s. And they spent $360 of their own money to rent an apartment and put 6 iron beds in it. And they said, we want there to be treatment for all children. And that's what gave birth to the organization that is today the Sick Kids Hospital. They have 1.4 billion Canadian dollars in net assets. And last year, they took in $98.5 million in donations, endowed, unrestricted, as well as restricted donations. I'm not sure that those 8 Bible study women had that kind of money in mind, but with the right pieces in place, that is what the Sick Kids Hospital has become today. Food Banks Canada. We all know Food Banks Canada. Why? Because I know Food Banks Canada because I know that during our tax clinic out in Edmonton, the food bank was a place that we sent people to quite frequently. And to find out that they are an organization nationally that took in a total of $190 million in donations in 2020 is exciting to be aware of. They did not start yesterday. They've been doing this forever. However, the thing to note is that they are a not-for-profit, and their focus is simply eradication of hunger. They're just saying, hey, if anybody's hungry, we want them to have a place they can go to get food. That is the thrust of Food Banks Canada, and that is what they have been doing since their inception, and that's what they continue to do and will continue to do. Alberta Wilderness Association is a tricky one. They're about conservation, wildlife, the forests, and the wildlife of Alberta is their focus and their interest. And they took in $500,000 in donations last year. They have $1.3 million in net assets. Theirs is just advocacy on keeping the forest and the wildlife of Alberta safe. That's their focus, that's their interest, and they continue to grow from strength to strength doing this. My personal favorite, the Mustard Seed, they're a charity here in Calgary. Last year, they took in $23 million in donations, corporate donations, individual donations, grants from the government. But the $23 million is the portion that relates to the donations they took in last year. And they provide food, shelter, and programs to help people who are dealing with substance abuse and things like that to regain their independence. I could go on and on, but these are just 6 examples, some of them far away, some of them close to home. But the point I'm making is the same. We can build and become as much as we desire and intend to be. It just comes down to doing the work. Please, at any point in time, if you think I'm going too fast or, out there, please go ahead and ask me. If you have a question, go ahead and ask it. The goal is simple. I don't want to speak to myself. Okay, so Josie, I will ask you a question about restricting that on non-restricted donations shortly. I can see, I just realized I hadn't looked at the chat all the while. And I was sitting lonely because I felt I was speaking to myself. Okay, so the why for all of these organizations, right? Like I said earlier, MSF was started by 13 doctors when they saw the hunger and the famine that arose out of the Biafran War in Nigeria. That was a civil war in Nigeria. That was their driving force. And they simply said, okay, you know what? How can we help? And they put themselves together into a humanitarian organization and then came in with medicine and food to support people. But it was first things first, it was medicine. Greenpeace found their why in the US government's decision to test underground nuclear explosions, right? And they were like, okay, you know what, if you do this thing, you create an avalanche, you create earthquakes, and it will not augur well for us. So they actually went and set up, barricades, and protested, serious activism. And at the end of the day, even though the detonations went on, there was no tsunami, there was no earthquake, but the point was made and Greenpeace was born. And they've been pursuing environmental matters since then. And that was about 50 years ago. So one thing that is clear is that the clearer the why is, the easier it is for the organization to endure. When you know what you want to achieve, when you know why you exist, when there is no doubt, no shadow of a doubt about the direction that you're going in as an organization, the likelihood that you will stumble, the likelihood that you will wander around without direction, the likelihood that you will get tired and say, hey, I'm not sure why I'm doing this or what I'm doing anymore, starts to fade. And that's because there's clarity. All of these organizations have a very clear why. Very, very, very clear why. You don't need to negotiate it. You don't need to ask anybody, right? And the clearer the why gets, the better it is for you as a drive, because you know the direction that you're going, right? If you're like the mustard seed, if your why is eliminating homelessness and reducing poverty, then you know that that's where all the money goes. And whether it is you're simply going to keep building kitchens, right? Keep piling up beds so that homeless people can come in and eat, and then keep providing financial literacy so that people stay out of poverty, right? If you're a food bank, you're just get a pantry, get a kitchen, period. All the money goes to pantries and kitchens. So whether you're happy in the morning or you're not happy in the morning, the money comes in, it's filling another pantry or building another kitchen, right? So I think the essence of all of this conversation this evening is to help us to realize that however challenging the days are, however glorious the days are, because some of us have had some very beautiful days, the fact is, when your why is clear, the clear why helps you to get through keeps your head up in the hard days and keeps your head down in the proud days. So you're not feeling too good when you're succeeding. At the same time, you're not struggling too hard. You're not too down on yourself, because you know where your time should go. You know where the effort should go. You know where the energy should go. So I've just put this summary out here so that we can see that even the big organizations, they're very clear on what they're doing. They're very clear on why they're doing what they're doing. And it's just important, because that's how we keep going. I
have a question.
Yes, Tyra, go ahead.
So I want to know how to move my own small UDBD organization to the next level. I guess that's the question. How do we move? And the one question I have, can we come together and see if we can all lobby for operational funds from a funder? I don't know. In terms of collaboration, everybody I know needs operational funds, right? We all have funds for, well, I don't know if we all do, but some of us have money for programs, but we don't have operational funds. So is there a way we can, I don't know, write a joint letter, go to a fund and say we need operational funds for 50 nonprofits?
So I like the idea. The fact is that the SBCCI grant was a first step in that direction. And I think quite a number of organizations nationally, Black not-for-profits across the country benefited from have benefited from the 3 tranches of the SBCCI grants that have gone out. However, we know that that has been timed. So the question is, which is really what sustainability is about, how do you diversify your funding such that you have the money to turn on the lights in a space and keep the lights on and execute your programs and pay your staff? You know, that's the question that you're asking me. In terms of Duelita, I see you. Just give me 1 minute. I'll come to you right away. Now, in terms of lobbying, lobbying a particular sponsor to, help us with operational funding, that's definitely something that we can collaborate on as a group, as at the same time reach out to the intermediaries who have already done this in the past to see whether there's more in the pipeline. But the other side of it is, are we using our community work? How are we using the reach we have, the influence we have within the community, either within our colleagues who work in the larger corporates, or the ones who work with the municipalities? Because whether we like it or not, the municipal governments are very, very interested in our long-term sustainability. We happen to serve one of the more difficult demographies as far as the cities are concerned. And being able to support us as we support the Black community across Alberta and the rest of Canada is beneficial to all of the municipalities. So this is what you are asking, Tayo, is not something that's far-fetched or impossible. It's something that we will take on board and then see how we can have conversations around this with the Africa Center and other intermediaries to see if there's a potential for this. Now, I'm going to answer your next question after I get Duelita's question, if it's anything different, because my next slide was where I was going to answer your question. But Duelita, can you go ahead and ask your question?
I was just going to offer a comment, but if you're, are you sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to suggest, I think from what I've seen with a lot of our organizations is one of two things. One, we don't put operating expenses for projects in our proposals. So then we don't get some of the funds that can go to operations. So it's not asking them, because no organization is going to fund your whole operation, but they will give you additional funds to operate that project. And so what that looks like is like 15%, sometimes they cap it at like 35% or 20% or 25, but you have to be able to know how to build it into your project. And I think for a lot of us, we're not building it into our projects, we're not building it into our programs, and we're just looking at the program. So if we're running a basketball camp, we're not looking at honorariums for the referees who will be running the basketball camp. We're not looking at gym rental fees. We're not looking at any of these things. We're just looking at the project itself. And so one of the suggestions that I've been making to people is to put in as much as you can. So if you have an office, they may not want to pay 12 months of your office, but they'll pay 3 months or they'll pay 6 months, right? Because you're operating your project from that office. So that's one of the ways that you can get some operating expenses into your project. That was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing that up, because that's a very, very important viewpoint. But I think where I'm going to take us to is the clarity that comes with knowing why. Now, for example, you talked about an organization that did basketball camps, right? Now, we know basketball camps will either happen outdoors in the summer or happen all year round in a gym. That's how basketball camps roll. Now, for you to be able to say, I have a project, and based on my project cost, I'm able to pay for my operating costs from my operations because I've built my OPEX into my project cost, it means that you've come to a point where you are no longer flying by the seat of your pants. You are no longer just waking up and saying, oh, it would be great to have a basketball camp in June when it is May, right? You're not saying, you know, let's have a summer event, let's have a tournament. You're not having that conversation about your big summer tournament in April, because you sat down sometime in September of the year previous and you wrote out your entire program for the next 12 months, preferably 15 or maybe even 18. And you tracked your year from September till March of the following year. And then you are able to say, okay, these are all the programs that I want to get done. And based on that, you now go ahead and say, okay, if I know all my programs, how much are all those programs going to cost me? Based on what it will cost me, what grants are out there that can fund these programs? And how can I build my OPEX in to ensure that I find 100% of my operating costs for at least 12 months? And that's because you sat down and thought about your why, right? So there's nothing novel or unique about what I'm saying. But the fact is that as a people, we need to put in the effort, we need to put in the time to think ahead and say, okay, how am I going to ensure that I can run my shop for the next 12 months? And the way to do it is to plan out. And like Dulita said, building your cost there. And then go look for the grants that are going to fund this. Go look for corporate sponsorships. Go look for donations. Look for wealthy individuals who wouldn't mind having a trophy named after them if you're a basketball or tournament organizer, you know. So to the slide that I'm showing, we need to be clear of what our cause is. We need to be very clear. This is what I want to achieve. And because you are clear, you are also able to say, this is how I'm going to achieve it. As an organization, you have projects, you have programs. Those are your primary means of securing funding, and those are your primary means of driving your course. However, if you do not find the funding for the programs and the projects, then the course will die. So it becomes imperative to say, I have a course, right? Josie, I'm still coming to your question. I have not forgotten. I have a course.
Okay.
I have a course that I'm driving. I know what I want to see. I know how I want to change the world. I know how I want the community to be a better place. And this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to teach everybody about my cause every other day, every year. And that's how I'm going to do it. And as I spend the days doing it, I'm going to find people who are going to pay for that work to be done. But guess what? You can't do it all by yourself. Did you hear what I said? You can't do it all by yourself. Hello? Should I repeat after? Should I say that once again? You cannot do it all by yourself. It's not possible. You are one. No one person changed the world all by themselves. So how do you do it? You build an organization. You build an organization around your cause, right? You build an organization around your cause. What is an organization? An organization is simply processes and people. If this, then that. If this, then that. If this, then that. And people come and go, but processes remain the same. We modify processes from time to time, just like we change laws from time to time. But people come and go. People come and people go. The prime minister is going to change, right? The prime minister 10 years ago is not the prime minister today. The premier of Alberta has changed. People come and go. Processes stay. And as long as the processes are being tweaked and optimized to achieve the cause, the organization will abide. So we need to begin to think about our cause as more than just the projects and the programs, but we need to begin to think about our cause as an organization that we are building to endure. We need to build to last. We need to build to endure, right? One of the processes that we all need to put in place, as in like right away, is a process that says, what are we going to achieve in the next 12 months as an organization? This is our cause. Our cause is, let me speak for myself. My cause is financial literacy and the success of entrepreneurs in Western Canada. That's my cause. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I do, right? And because of that, I am setting up 1, 2, 3 sessions of financial literacy education on an ongoing basis. I am setting up 1, 2, 3 sessions of accountability for entrepreneurs on an ongoing basis. Those are the things that I intend to do over the next 12 months. And then I build that into projects and programs, and then I build processes around it. So what are the key processes I need? I need a budgeting process. That's money, right? I build a budgeting process. The budgeting process ensures that we know how much we need to execute our plan for the next 12 months. But the only reason we can talk about money is because we know what we are trying to achieve. So I know I'm talking a lot about the cause and the why. The reason is because as long as those two things are not crystal clear, we are going to struggle. As long as those things are not crystal clear, we are going to flounder. We're going to guess around. We will go to the wrong sponsors. We will take on the wrong grants. We will hire the wrong people because we don't have the clarity. The clarity is very important, right? Now, when you have processes and people in place, finding resources to support your cause is much easier. I didn't say it's easy. I just said it is easier than you just trying to do it all by yourself, right? So as you secure resources and take action and drive and get results, you know, it becomes critical to make sure that you are creating a feedback loop wherever the resources has come from, whether it is volunteer time, whether it is municipal funding, whether it is federal funding, whether it is sponsorship funding, whether it is other not-for-profit granting. Going back and telling the story of your experience and your results is a critical component that we can't afford to miss out on anymore. Because the truth is, the more people hear from you, the more they're willing to listen to you if you are talking about what they're interested in. Now, for you to have secured funding already, you found somebody who loves the idea of what you're doing. So when you go back and tell them, oh, we fed 2 children last night, thanks for the $5 you gave us. There's a potential $5, if not 10, on the way to you once again. And then the day after you go back and say, oh yeah, you gave us $10. We didn't feed 4, we actually fed 5 because we got $10. With 5, we could feed 2. With 10, we actually fed 5. They're like, oh, okay. The more we give you, the more your impact extends. Then they start to consider how they can put more money in your hands because you will advance their interest, because they are interested in your cause. That's why they're giving you money. So the things that I'm highlighting and iterating tonight Number one, be very clear on your cause. There's no point. If you're not clear about your cause, you are going to struggle. Take it from me. Understand the why you are doing what you are doing. Don't deceive yourself. You can't do it alone. So build the law, processes, put the law in place, lay down the law, then hire the people that would run the processes such that you are building an organization, not planning one event. The goal is not to plan one event. The goal is to build an organization that endures. And then never miss the opportunity to tell your story once again. So whether it's to one person or to a whole room full of people, take every opportunity you get to tell what is happening within your organization. Because guess what? You don't know who is listening. You may think it's a private, personal conversation. Your next funder may be eavesdropping on that conversation simply because they like what you're talking about. So take every opportunity to talk about what is happening in your organization, because your next funder could be listening to you. So let me just take a look at some of the things that we've said here. Josie asked what's the difference between restricted and non-restricted donations. Now, as a not-for-profit, you have the opportunity to make revenue from a number of things. Primary of them is grant funding. Now, some grants come to you with zero restrictions. They just say, hey, hi, Josie, here's $10,000. We know you're doing good work. Go use it for whatever is, you're trying to do next. And then that money is given to you at your discretion for you to use as you deem fit. That is what is known as unrestricted or non-restricted funding, whether it comes by way of a grant or a donation. Now, on the other hand, when the organization says, hi, Anne, I want you to train 10 entrepreneurs on cloud-based accounting, and we are going to give you $1,000 per entrepreneur. So they write you a check for $10,000. That means they want to see a list of 10 business owners sitting down in a classroom or getting trained on how to use a cloud-based accounting solution, right? With that training being provided by your organization. That is restricted because the money is given to you for a specific purpose. You do not have any discretion in how it is used. If you cannot find 10 people, that training does not move forward. You do not have a facilitator that is going to train on, what do you call it? Cloud accounting. That training does not move forward. So the training only happens when you're able to say categorically that you have all the 10 people, you have a facilitator to teach on cloud-based accounting, and you're able to create an environment that allows the content to be delivered to the satisfaction of your funder. So that's the difference between restricted and non-restricted funding. Josie, is that clear?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, now, Funke says that's correct. However, we must bear in mind that certain funders are still averse to you, including operational expenses explicitly. It is important to understudy each funder to know how and under what categories they would allow or not allow you to include such overhead. We just need to keep learning the art of grant seeking. It's not a one-size-fits-all. No two funders are the same, but we'll all get there. You couldn't have put it, I couldn't put it any better than this. Thank you very much, Ms. Smith, for putting for this comment. It's the fact. There are funders out there who do not want to see any operational funding. They don't care about it. As far as they're concerned, your operations is your operations. Your rent is your rent, you pay it. We'll pay for the basketball club. You sort out the salaries of your staff and the honorariums of the referees. But get the kids on the floor, get them jerseys, get them a trophy, leave that to us. There are some funders that are like that. And some other funders will say, hey, you know what? We know that it costs you something to run your operation. And we know that this project is going to take 25% of your time for the year. So we'll pick up 25% of your payroll cost or 20% of your rent, as the case may be. And that's also fair. But the important thing is, wherever the money is coming from, understand the terms around each and every grant. Because some grants are the type that you will get audited for every year. Some other grants, they just want an email that says, hey, thank you for the $10,000. We spent it on A, B, C, D, E things, and we're grateful for it. See you next year. Their funders are as different as that. The important thing is understand who is on which extreme and respond to them based on their expectations. The old saying goes that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. It hasn't changed. It is still the reality. And I dare say it is more real now than ever before. Okay, so I will go ahead with the rest of my presentation. And I have only one question for you. How clear are you on your cause? Because that's what determines where we go from here. Questions?
What can we expect going forward from this group?
Tayo, thanks for that. We'll close out with that. Just wanted to see if there's anybody else that has any other question on this subject before I delve into where we are going with all of this.
I don't have a question, but I did want to say thank you, because I think this is so needed. Especially right before, because a lot of granting cycles begin in the fall.
Exactly.
And so, like, this is prepping a lot of us for fall cycles. And I appreciate your knowledge on this and also your willingness to share, right? Because this is something that's very, that we would have to pay a class like $1,500 for a full day conference to get this type of information. And the fact that we're able to do this in an evening and to have access to you is amazing. And so I just wanted to say thank you, and that I appreciate it, and that I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you, as well as to see how we can help each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. And thank you very much to all the members of the team that made this happen. But the goal is simple. We all have causes and there are things that we want to do. And yeah, we will work together. I'm sorry the group was shut down for the last 24 hours before this session. That was more out of fear than anything else. I've never had a group that I was in charge of broken into that way. So thank you very much. The group is back on. We can chat. But what's going to be happening here? What do we intend to get out of this group on a go forward? Having been, I'm a child as far as the not-for-profit space is concerned. I am going to be honest. There are many of you here who have done not-for-profit work for as long as I have been an accountant, and that's not a short while. And I have to respect all of you that are in that space. However, having been a consultant and a CPA for as long as I have been, it's clear that that body of knowledge is something that is wanting in the not-for-profit space, which is why we are having this conversation. Now, the goal of this group is to create a resource center, basically, for not-for-profits in Canada, period. We are starting with a WhatsApp group. We are looking into the potential of setting up a website. We'll be setting up a Google Doc, a Google form where you can give us your information properly so that we can start a directory. The website will have a directory of all the members of the group. And then as other people deem necessary, we'll add them to the directory. The goal is so that we can find ourselves, identify ourselves in the spaces that we work in, and then support each other. I know that I will always be grant hunting, but my organization will not be eligible for every grant. There will be grants that I will not be able to apply for because all I talk about is financial literacy and entrepreneurship. But when I find a grant that focuses on young people and the social justice system, I know that if I put it in this group, there's somebody who's going to say, this is my gold, and I'm going to apply for this. And then the person comes to me and says, hey, I need a financial forecast, or can I get my financial statements audited because this grant that could fund my next 12 months requires it. I am happy to do that. I'm happy to support in that way. So the goal is simple. We're going to continue to wash hand on hand as we all grow together. We will share thoughts, we will share ideas, we will share wins, we will share frustrations, we will share our L's. Nobody likes to talk about the losses. But guess what? Some of us will learn more from your losses than you, because guess what? When you experience them, if I learn from them, I don't need to go through the same situation if I'm careful. So the goal is that we are learning together and we are growing together as organizations. Like I said earlier on, you can't do it alone. However much you want it, you have only 24 hours in a day, and you must sleep, and you must eat, and you must fill your mental cup. So you need time for that. So you can't do it all. However, if you set yourself up properly, then you set yourself up for success long term. So over the summer, heading into the fall, we're going to spend time talking about what it takes to write. Actually, I think one takeaway that I would like us to have from this session is I would like everybody to spend time looking at your why statement, whether you call it a vision or a mission statement or your cause, whatever language you use. I know these days it's more vision than anything else, but whatever language you use for your organization, right? Spend the next 1 week thinking about it and rewriting it and crafting it for clarity's sake. And my hope is that next Tuesday, when we come talking together, we're able to come and talk about how we have been able to clarify our why and say, okay, these are the things I've decided to lay aside in my plan for the next 12 months because they just don't fit into the why. Or these are the things I've added to my plan for the next 12 months, because suddenly I have all this clarity because I've taken the time to think about what I want to achieve, and I've designed programs and I've built a schedule. So I would actually like us all to take that as a takeaway, as put some time into thinking about your vision, think about your vision statement, think about your why, think about your course, and spend some time crafting it, articulating it a bit further, getting clarity. If you think there are 2 or 3 programs that seem to be all over the place, understand why those programs exist. I have to be so honest. There are some programs you are going to set up simply because there's funding. And you want to bring that funding into your organization to drive your main cause. Go ahead and do that, but you know why. Knowing why is important. Knowing why is critical. Knowing why is one of the things that guarantees your long-term sustainability. So if there are no other questions, Costa, you want to say something briefly? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Just wanted to mention that, actually, thank you for the presentation. It's greatly appreciated. So on the point of not doing it by yourself, it's really great to note that. But what I also want to warn the founders, the visionaries, is that when you are identifying your board members, you've got to be really careful about who you are bringing into your vision into your goals, into your why. As we know that the board members, if you are an executive director or you're the founder, the board members are actually the ones that own the organization, the entity. You might own the vision, but if the board members are now part of the organization, you report to the board as the executive director or the founder. I have actually experienced certain things that,